Welcome back, folks. We're on another exciting adventure today, doing some mobile work here. Got a customer of mine, friend of mine, that will be lending out his camper, and he wanted to make sure before the person ends up using it for a little bit that everything worked. So it's got flats. Been just going around checking, making sure certain things work, running the awning out. We got a piece of trim here that goes up there, which we'll be taking care of that. We will be replacing this roof vent. We'll end up taking that one out, putting a new one on. He's already got that. Here's where that trim piece goes. It sits inside here and goes all the way down the front. And of course, we ran the slides in and out, make sure they work, which they do. What we're working on now, though, is a heater. We did just have a freeze, and he thought he had the heater on, but unfortunately it wasn't working. Lucky for him, it did not freeze anything. There's no water in here. Everything's working good. So what's going on with it is it kicks on, the blower kicks on, but it does not ignite. I've come to know from past experiences on camper we used to own that usually, we'll go back up there and show you guys. So here's your intake and exhaust, which I already pulled the cover off, but they sell little screens that go over these, and those screens keep out mud daubers, wasps, bugs that like to go inside and make nests. And there's sensors in there that get restricted, or stuff built up on it that when they don't detect certain flow, it will not allow it to ignite. So I didn't see anything when I pulled that off. Now I'm down here underneath the oven where the actual heating unit sits. I pulled that cover off, and then that cover to the unit, and if you look in here, you can't really see a whole bunch. Just where it would get hot. So we're gonna actually disconnect the LP line right here, unscrew it, and pull it all the way out so we can get a better look inside there. So it's fairly simple, just some Phillips screws, that LP line, and there's some electrical connectors, which we're going to check and make sure it's not hot before we go touching it, and we'll come back and show you what we see inside. Well, we decided to give the heater diagnosing a little bit of a break. Kind of running into a bunch of dead ends there. Let my brain recharge on that. You know, sometimes you got to step away from something because you're probably overthinking it and making it harder than it really is. So that's what I've done. Now I've decided to get high. As in, I mean, I'm up here on top of the camper, so no, I'm not smoking marijuana. Anyhow, and now we're going to replace this roof vent. So they had this piece just taped on here, and what I'm doing right now is working on removing the existing lap sealant so I can get to the screws that are underneath it, get that pulled out, get all this lap sealant pulled off, and then we'll get the new one put in here and get it all sealed up. So I'm gonna work on that. This stuff is a pain to get off. It's like It's not hard, but it's like semi-dried bubble gum. And yeah, of course, the roof itself is just this material on top of wood, so we got to be careful with that. Of course, we'll be going back down, covering with, again, like I said, new lap sealant on the new one. So it's just tedious and time consuming, so I'm gonna on that, and maybe show you what it looks like once I get all this bubble gum off. I got pretty much all the old compound at least pushed off around the base of it. Essentially, we're going to drill with a little bit down in the heads of these screws to pull out all the lap compound inside there. That way it'll allow us to get our square drive inside these holes better, get a good bite to actually pull them out without like rounding them off. And this drill with the little drill bit just goes in there and it essentially just wraps itself around like spaghetti on a fork. And you pull it out and voila. So we'll go around and do all that. Screws out all the way around. Now we're working on getting underneath here, getting this lifted, which obviously there's going to be lap sealant underneath here as well. So you know, you're still gonna have to try and work around to get that out and get this lifted at the same time, which again, it's just tedious work. So just take your time and keep going. Okay, so we pretty much worked around all the way around and we're just lifting it out, and wow, oh goodness gracious, now there's a hole in the roof. I guess we better get the new one put in. We're gonna go around and clean up a lot of this junk, get it out of the way. Something I did notice that was kind of interesting is there's wires that run through the ceiling right here, and there's a screw hole right here and one over here. That one definitely missed, but that one's awful close. I don't think it got into the wires, which is good, but that's good to know going back because it may be different holes, and I'll put a little mark up here so I know I should not put a screw right there. So we're going to keep on with the tedious work of cleaning off this old bubble gum, and we'll come back when we're starting to reassemble. We've got it in, and we're getting the lap spread around. You know, it's kind of like putting icing on a cake. It's self-leveling, so it should level out itself. Pretty much I put like a 1/4 inch bead underneath it, make sure I covered all the old holes, set it down, ran the screws in, and then ran a bead, 2 fat beads around the outside edges and over the tops of the screws again, making sure they all touch and join. That way they you know, stick together, because sticking together is good for you. And yeah, so we'll just let that settle, and we'll go down below and button up the bottom side. And yep, sun is starting to go down, so just about time to wrap up for the day. So, what's new? Still disappointing. Didn't get the furnace to ignite. I'm not getting any spark from the igniter. I am getting the fan to come on, so the cell switch and the overtemp switch are working. Yeah, gonna have to retreat for the night and do some research, see what else that I missed for checking, which could be anything, because I don't work on RVs, but I am today. We did get the ceiling vent replaced, so at least something got finished today. Yeah, so we're gonna call it a night, because It is almost night. It's a pretty good looking sunset. And we're gonna head back to the casa and probably be back tomorrow. So we'll see you then. All right. So we're back out here again. It's a not as pretty day today. No sunshine. All gray and gloomy with rain on the way. So did a little poking around. Pretty sure couple things. Well, probably one thing. I think the circuit board on that furnace is bad, because all the powers and grounds that are supposed to be there are there, and it's just not making any spark to the, or sending any power through the igniter. But I don't have that part readily available, and we do still need to address the trim up top, so I think we're going to do that before it starts to rain too bad. And then I still have the vent for the furnace open. I have put some plastic in. I think I'll try and put something a little bit better, or more covering, to keep the rain coming from going in. So I'm gonna climb up there and we'll see what we need to do. Nothing like getting about halfway down to realize you're putting the damn thing on backwards and having to pull it all the way back off. I guess it helps when you know what you're doing, so you do it right the first time. But with any good mistake, as long as you learn from it and don't do it again, then it's all right, I guess. So we're getting it inserted in. Like I said, I got about down to where the roll is before I realized that it was backwards, and well, it's a lot harder to put it in backwards. So I should have realized that before I got that far, because although it's still not easy putting it in the right way, it's not near as hard putting it in as it is putting it in the wrong way. So I'm just setting, the bottom of it in the channel, and then just coming along and running it underneath, which I'm sure if I had brought one of my little plastic trim tools, I could use it to push under there. I could use the screwdriver, but being metal, I'd be afraid to probably poke through it or tear it or damage it and jeopardize the longevity of it. So we're just going to be pushing it underneath with our fingernail and our fingers as we go along. Yeah, so always fun stuff. So every tool has its intended use, and well, most people know that most tools are multi-purpose use, but only advertised for one specific thing. Anything can be a hammer. This DeWalt drill. Well, if I needed to hit something, well, just use the battery. It's okay. Or you could actually use a hatchet with a hammer. I was saying earlier that, probably if I brought one of my plastic interior trim tools, which essentially is like a flat bladed screwdriver that's plastic, I could use it to help push stuff down instead of these screwdrivers. Well, here I have this piece. This is actually a wire piercer. It goes to my power probe, and you hook your wire in there, and then you screw this down, and it pushes a needle through, and that's what helps pierce wires, and then I can test it here. But today it's doubling as a plastic trim tool because it's a little pointy and it's plastic, and it's definitely speeding up the process of me being able to use it to push this down and get it to go right on in there a lot faster, which I can't really demonstrate and hold the camera, but that's essentially what it's doing, nice and neatly. So don't ever think you may not have the exact tool, because you probably have a tool that can double as what you're looking for. That's just a little tech tip for you. All right, so we've got the roof trim done all the way down, and did a little bit of silicone right here on the edges, both front and back, That way we don't get any water underneath there. So we are done with the roof because we did that vent back there yesterday. Went and checked, and the lap sealant is all good, no holes. So we are gonna go back down and see if we can further check on the furnace issue. We also, because it is early spring in Texas, we get a couple of springs. I believe we're gonna have another Arctic blast here in a couple weeks because we're only into January. But it is, it's gray. We're gonna have more rain today. The vent I still have off, so I sealed it up. It's a temporary seal. There's some plastic inside there in each hole, and then a bag with some Gorilla Tape just to hold it. It ought to keep water from going in. Should be sufficient for now until we get it wrapped up. And yeah, so we don't want any water going inside. And now we'll get back in here where the furnace is and do some more checking. We'll be back. All right, so we had to make a quick run over to a buddy of mine's shop. This is the circuit board or the power module, whatever it's called, for the furnace. It would have gone right here. This wire right here comes out and goes in and down to the igniter. Yep, right there to the igniter, which is that right there. You can see that wire comes off of it, goes through there, up there. Anyhow, the fan's working. There's a cell switch that plugs in right here. There's a limit switch underneath there. No big deal, but it passes through everything. Everything comes through here, and it goes into the circuit board. I'll show you on this one. Well, I was getting absolutely nothing out of here. One, because the igniter in there wasn't doing anything, no sparking. But even when I put my multimeter on there, it wasn't getting anything out. And this should be sending at least a pulsed signal to make it zappity zap zap across there to ignite the gas that would be blown in. So the owner went to buy a new one. He did buy one, but it is still a week out. So I phoned a friend, good friend of mine, Chris. He owns Camper Revampers, and well, he had this used one and this new one, which they're both the same, but they're universal. So we're just gonna run this and see if indeed the board is bad. And we now have spark here on the igniter, so when the new one comes in, we'll know that's all we need. Let's let it run and let's see if we get any spark. Hooray, hooray, we know now that the board is bad and that was the problem the whole time. Now we just wait a week for the new board to come in. Super duper. Good morning, everybody in the YouTube world. Today, we're back here with the camper, and it has been a week since I was last here. We are supposed to have the circuit board, circuit module, whatever, for the furnace some point today. That way I can get that part fixed, although it has been freaking beautiful in the 70s here in Texas. we probably will have another cold stint, and regardless, it needed to be replaced because the furnace needs to work. Again, the owner of this camper is going to be letting someone borrow it, and we are just here to make sure everything works when he does pass it over to that person. And today, those tires, they're still flat. I know they're only flat on the bottom, so we only got to fix part of it, but we're going to jack up the axles, take these tires off, and run them over and get the new tires that he purchased put on. And then maybe by that time, our circuit board will show up and we can get that installed, get the furnace put back in, and run it through everything to make sure it actually indeed does still work like we saw it do with the tester one that I borrowed from another friend. So let's see what I can do with trying to jack up. I'm probably going to do one at a time. So I'll jack up the axle, the front axle on this side, and then on the other side, obviously I'm going to try and get a piece of wood or a big stone or something I can put under those jacks, because they'll probably just sink into the ground if I just jack them up in the dirt. But let's see what I come up with. All right, working on breaking these loose. So maybe we'll just do one side at a time. Since I'm apparently lifting this whole side of the camper instead of just one axle. Did I ever mention that I'm not an RV tech or a camper technician? That's Camper Revampers, and I defer to them on everything. Again, the only reason why I'm doing this one is it's a friend of mine. All right, let's take these two, get them replaced, then we'll come back, put them on, and get the other two. All right, we made it back finally. It was about an hour and a half for the first two tires. They told me that they will get the next two done as I wait instead of having to wait that long. But I was able to run and get some lunch. So let's get these put on. You can see, so this jack, how much higher it is off that piece of wood. Same thing in the back. So that's how much higher it is now with the tires that aren't flat and good. As you can see, this jack is not center of that, and it did move when they went flat, so maybe I'll put a jack stand up here just in case. Got this side jacked up. I actually ran in the slides because obviously, one, if the slides are out, there'd be a lot of weight over leaned off this side, and two, I'd be working underneath it. So, using the brain this time. Work smarter, not harder, right? At least that's the idea. Let's go get these switched out and come back, get them put on, and then, like I said, hopefully by that time the circuit board gets here and we can finish the furnace inside. It is kind of looking a little dark over there. I still don't think I'm gonna have any precipitation while I'm here, but we'll see. All right, so I just made it back with the new tires. That was much faster this time, thank goodness, because I did look at the radar, and that is definitely a line of storms just west of me. I figure I've probably got about 30-ish minutes before I get wet, so I got to get this done, get it finished, so I can transition to the inside where it's dry. Voila! They're done all the way around. And it's not raining yet, but it's coming. Now let's put up some tools and wait for the circuit board to get here. Okay, well, we're back here at the camper to finish working on getting the circuit board, the new circuit board installed, and the furnace put back in. We were here yesterday. We got the tires done, and it did rain. It rained twice. As a matter of fact, when I was leaving, it started raining, and then last night it rained really good. So at least I was able to get my part done before I got soaked. Alright, so here is the new replacement board that we got. I believe it came from Outdoor World. Let's see what's in the box. And this is the old one here. Here's the new one. You know, it's a little different as far as the setup. Maybe it's got some upgrades. It definitely has a lot less of these little doodads, which I believe are resistors. Okay, so we've got the board on, hooked back up. Got the LP line hooked from the solenoid back up here. And our igniter and everything's hooked up. There's a new board on there. Everything's wired in. Got the blower motor cover put back on, and pulled off my plastic covering from the holes out there. And now we're going to work on getting this thing put back in the hole where it came out of. And let's go out here and check the fitment of these vents outside. Yeah, you can see in there, they're not quite lined up yet, so we gotta get those lined up, and we'll be right back. Alright, so I've got that kind of loosely slid in there, holding the intake and exhaust vents up. Let's go inside and get it mounted, and then we'll come back out and take that off and get it sealed. Well, after struggling with this little insulation piece, it's just a rectangle that you have to stick underneath here to get, and then while keeping it from sliding around, get this whole housing, furnace housing, to line up to where you can get that screw and that screw in. It's just a pain in the butt. You know, one thing wants to move one way, the other thing wants to move the other way, and then the holes don't want to line up. But looks like everything in there is back how it was. We'll get the cover put on this, and then we'll fire it up and see if we have heat. Alright, so got that all put back on. We haven't finished sealing up the vents, the intake and the exhaust on the outside yet. I want to make sure it does fire before I get those siliconed in. I'm sweating in here. It is pretty warm. I went ahead and moved the thermostat all the way up to 90, so hopefully I can get it to come on. It's not cold in Texas right now, so, but, oh, let's go turn the propane on. It won't light without propane. I did put some tape over the top of these. Not that it's not hard to get off, but just in case someone walked by and just figured they should turn them on, they would see this and say, huh, I wonder why there's tape on this. And hopefully that would deter them from opening them and maybe ask if they can. Since I had that line off of the furnace, it would have just been pouring propane inside. But no one opened them, which is good. We'll go ahead and purge the air out of the system. The easiest way to do that is to light the stovetop. Oh, there it is. And she's a burning. You can barely see it, but you see that flame going? There it is. That tells me that see if we get that back one lit. There it goes back there. That tells me we've got air out of the lines, and I've got, you know, gas flowing up to here at least. Turn that off. Let's kick this furnace on. Fan. Oh yeah, there's definitely heat coming out of there now. That tells me, whew, that tells me she's a burning. Let's go inside and, oh, I can smell it. It's definitely cooking and stuff off from in there. What do we got here? Nice warm air. We'll call that done. Let's turn it off. It'll take a minute to cycle. It'll cool down, blow out the pilot, and then we'll go outside and seal up the intake and the vents. Super. We'll be back. There you have it. Only took a little over a week. Not all my fault. Some on the parts, but we went around and got several things that he needed done. One being his new roof vent. Looks like that's all set up nice. We got this trim piece all the way down from front to back put on. Looks good. And which we won't go back in, but get the vents back on and resealed, got the furnace working, got him some new rubber all the way around. Checked to make sure all the water worked, which that's all good. So this one is done. If you watched the whole thing, thanks for watching. If you have any questions on anything that was done, don't hesitate to ask. And stay tuned for whatever next adventure we go on with the daily grind. Thanks, and have a great day.